Greetings, Internet. My name is Poser P, and usually I do Kurzweil Forte and Vast and Kurzweil PC3 programming tutorials. There are more of those on the way, I promise. I'm just slow because I'm doing a bunch of stuff all at the same time. Anyway, this is one of those things, so you can blame this for me not getting those videos out. This is my modular. I built it, I designed it, the case myself, and all that stuff, put it together. I didn't use any power tools. I used like a handsaw. I can't remember what they're called, but it's one of those saws that's made for cutting things straight and all that good stuff with just using hand tools. There's a fancy Japanese version. I have the cheap, not Japanese version. Anyway, so I built this myself, and I powered off battery. Over here, this is just one of those laptop power supplies with an adjustable voltage. You just hit this button a few times to pick the voltage you want. I'm using a row power 30, and that can run off anything from 15 to 20 volts. I've gone ahead and I'm off 20 volts here. I'm also using it to power the camera and using it to power the keyboard. So it's kind of nice. This whole thing is portable. I could plug this, I have it plugged into my monitors in here, but I could plug this into whatever speakers I want that are battery powered, and then I'm completely mobile. And I designed it that way on purpose because I like to be able to take my stuff places and play, you know, and program in other environments and things like that. Okay, so let's get down to the real business here. Today I want to talk about analog aliasing. Okay, why do we want to do that? Well, we've spent loads of time trying to eliminate aliasing in the digital world, and half the reason why all this stuff exists, it seems, is because people got tired of using software emulations that had aliasing. So why would we ever want to go back to that? Well, I'm going to, hopefully by the end of this, you'll see how that could be potentially useful and fun too. I mean, it's just, it's not just an effect, it can be used for synthesis. And I want to demonstrate that and how to do that. And we're going to do it in the analog domain instead of on a digital synthesizer. Because, well, for various reasons that we'll talk about that as we go along. Okay, so I'm going to try and stick to a color convention as much as possible. I have a bunch of these short cables, so at times I'm going to be switching colors, but I'll tell you about that. So that I want this to be relatively easy, even though it's going to get kind of crazy up here. I want this to be at least somewhat easy for you to follow. So the conventions are as follow. Blue is going to be for pitch tracking. So it's 1 volt per octave. It's coming off the arteria here. When I made this case, I thought I was cool and did it right, but the backs of these rails are too far down, and so I can't use the MIDI out. So I was going to use the MIDI outs on the arteria going into here to be able to do polyphonic stuff. So I'm going to have to figure out a different way to do that, which sucks, but it's all right. This we'll make it through. I could always plug in my QY100, my favorite sequencer in the universe, into here and use that. I haven't done it yet just because I've been busy with every other thing under the sun that I've been trying to do. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead then, and so we got blue for pitch tracking. Sorry, I didn't finish that. Gate is going to be on yellow. So this is all my gate signals. This is all my pitch signals. And then audio, I'm going to try and stick to purple. And I may need to use white for some audio runs that are longer than my purple cables. So that will be our color convention. We might mix in some, say, orange with yellow or green with blue. But I'm going to try and keep things relatively close together in terms of colors so that you can follow visually as well with this. And there is one other thing. I'm going to use red here, and we're going to start here. So the way that I have these set up is, so I've got 2 VCO modules here, and each one of them contains 2 oscillators, and they're kind of independently controllable. If I go into this first input here, both oscillators will track pitch. If I go into just this input, just this oscillator will track pitch. So both of these are tracking pitch. This oscillator is tracking pitch. This one is not. To begin with, this is going to control my sample rate. So that's what that oscillator is going to do. Let me make sure I get that lead all the way in there. Okay. There we go. Good. All right. So this is going to control my sample rate in this module here. Now, I have learned from hard experience, most of that coming while I've been trying to film this video, which I've now started and restarted about 3 or 4 times, because I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing while I'm talking. So forgive me for a moment. I'm going to try and set this up. So we're going to come out, first of all, just to show that we got audio. We're going to go in here, or just to prove to myself that I have audio. We're going to go using a white cable instead of purple from the square out on this oscillator into this envelope generator. This envelope generator is an ADSR VCA. It's cool. It's both an envelope it's an envelope generator and a VCA. Who would have thought? These are about one of the most useful modules in the universe, in my opinion, just for that. So now that we have that, so we've got gate control, we've got signal coming in, we want signal coming out, and we want it to go to audio. So that's output over here. I'm not going to worry about tuning this to any particular pitch. My apologies in advance if you have perfect pitch. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, that sounds like that's in between something and not on something. Anyway, and I know I have some friends who have perfect pitch, so I apologize to you guys. I really do. Hopefully you can still get some usefulness out of this without being totally freaked out by the fact that, yeah, the pitch is off. All right, we have audio. And the next thing I want to do is I want to be able to mix both my quote-unquote digital waveform and my analog waveform. So the one that is aliased and the one that is not. So to do that, I'm going to run from here into the mixer here. And then I'm going to go from out here to input 1. So let's make sure that's working. Okay, verify that's working. Now, because, oh, you know what? I did something wrong here. We're going to take this and we're just going to move it real quick. Get that out of the way. What I want to do before I get to that point is I've got to mult this audio signal. So I'm going to go into this buffered mult. This is all the Pulp Logic tiles down here. They make some really cool ones. This track and hold one is the thing that makes this aliasing stuff possible without it being necessarily ring mod. Because those two things are kind of similar. But anyway, so we're going to go on the track and hold here. Now we're going to come out of the mult and go into the track and hold, and I'm going to need a slightly longer cable than my purple cables to get that to work, so we're using white. Okay, so there we go. So we have audio coming out of the mult into the mixer here. We have another signal coming out of the mult into the sample and hold module. Now remember, track and hold here is being controlled by this square wave oscillator. Okay, this is not tracking pitch, so pitch is totally under control of this knob and this knob. So we're going to control our sample rate with this. Now it's not 1000% exact, okay? I know I'll probably get some comments that you're not actually doing sampling. I know, I get that. But this gets us close enough in terms of the audio results that I think it's worthwhile to use it for demonstration purposes and for sound design, which is really the important part here. However it works, it's useful for sound design. Okay, there we go. So one of the things I forgot to do is coming out of the sample and hold. Let's use a purple cable for that so it's not so confusing. Coming out of sample and hold, we want to go into another VCA. So I have another ADSR VCA right here. And we're going to come out of that guy and go into the mixer. Let's try this again. Okay, let's make sure we've got... Oh, we need a gate signal. That would help. There we go. All right. So here is our quote-unquote digital signal. Here is our analog signal. Okay, let's focus on this digital signal for a second here. Now remember, over here, is my essentially my sample rate control. So this is very much acting at the moment like ring mod, in that it's turning on and off the volume at the rate of the square wave. But I'm going to show you what happens, and you're going to hear things that sound very much like ring mod as we do this, as we go through the frequency range. But we're going to go all the way up to the top of the range of this oscillator, and I want you to hear what happens. Okay? There's our signal again. Now, just so for comparison purposes, here's the one that is not going through this. Let's set those at, let me set my gate times, or my envelope times, more or less similar. Let me shorten release. Okay, so we have A there, and B there. So here's the digital square wave. Here is the analog. Now, I don't know if you'll hear this on the camera phone, and I'm not recording this on purpose so I can talk, and because the principle is more important at the moment than the final sound that comes out. I will put a link to an audio sample where you can hear this in better quality so that you can hear what this sounds like. Okay, so let's go up through our octaves now. There we go. There's fun aliasing going on. Let's bring our sample rate down just a tad. All right. So it kind of starts kicking in. Let's see. So I don't remember what the published range of this VCO is, but whatever the published range is, that's going to be sort of your max sample rate using this setup. So let's bring the sample rate down. All right, so that shows you that you get a lot of sidebands. All right, aliasing causes sidebands. That's the important part. And the sidebands are very similar to AM and to FM, in that every frequency that's above your sample rate is going to get reflected back down. So you'll get your fundamental tone, but you're going to get it mixed with all these other frequencies that are reflected off the sample rate and come back down. So for instance, if your sample rate is set at 10 kilohertz and you have a signal that is 17 kilohertz, what you do, first of all, is you subtract 10, so you've got 7 kilohertz. Now you subtract 7 kilohertz from 10 kilohertz, that leaves you with 3 kilohertz. That's the frequency of the alias that you're going to hear along with the 17 kilohertz tone. So you're going to hear both of those at the same time. And that's how aliasing works in the digital realm. And that's pretty much exactly what is happening here. Now, because this is an analog system, we're also getting some ring mod effects. But for the most part, So you can hear, as I adjust the pitch, you'll hear pitches climbing and falling until we get up. Into a sample rate, essentially, that's high enough that it no longer causes aliasing. So I want to now talk about, all right, well, so that's cool. Well, how do you use this? Well, there are a couple of different things that this can be really useful for. The thing I'm going to demonstrate now, I'm going to actually use a sample instead of using this oscillator. So this oscillator is not the thing that I want going into this molt. What I want going into this molt, and let's see, what sort of cables do I got? I don't have any long white ones, so I'm going to cheat and use a blue. All right, our sample coming out of this play module, this is a 2 HP play module, is going to go here. All right, so instead of the square wave, now we're getting the, we're going to be getting that signal coming out of the sample playback thingy, and we're going to trigger that here. So you can hear that it's really low in pitch right now because I'm going to add some pitch tracking. Okay, now remember, we're hearing the aliased signal, or the digital signal, excuse me. Let's go ahead and compare that to the, what did I do wrong? So I'm coming from there to there, there to there, and then there to there. Okay, for whatever reason, I'm getting my non-alias signal is not working. All right, well, instead of futzing with it, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to work with our aliasing signal. To demonstrate, there it is. I'm going to be kind of troubleshooting this while I'm talking here, so I'm going to try and do, two things at once, which never works, but I'll try it anyway. So, yeah, so we have our aliased signal now, and it's this sample. Okay, so if you have a drum loop, I don't have one loaded on the flash card for the play module, but if you have a drum loop and you want to play it back at a lower sample rate, and you don't have a sample rate converter, with a sample and hold module and an oscillator, you can essentially create one. All right. Now, what happens if we switch a little bit here? Oh, I think that might have been what was going on. Let's just check. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, sweet. I did troubleshoot while I was talking. Okay, we're going to switch. Instead of coming out of the one that does not track pitch, we're going to come out of the oscillator that does. So now we are tracking pitch. We're tracking pitch with this oscillator that is controlling our sample rate. So now our sample rate follows the notes. Now, let me turn this up just a bit here. I think that's about as much as I'm going to get out of that. Okay, we're hitting the limiter on my mixer, but that's okay. Let's go down. You hear that chimey sound? Okay, remember that's the aliasing. Let's go ahead and listen to it without the chimey. That chimey sound can be used to turn this rather smooth electric piano sample into something that's more like a Rhodes. Now, if we want this to really be kind of Rhodes-like, we're going to have to do a couple of things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take let's see, we're going to, instead of tracking pitch like this, we're going to create a mix of signals using this mixer here to create our pitch tracking. So from our signal mixer, we're going to come out, and I'm going to use a longer blue cable here, out of here, and we're going to go into the pitch here. So now I can control that from here. The next thing I want to do, okay, so instead of coming out of VCA1, or I mean, sorry, this VCA over here, for our signal, we're going to bypass that guy because we're just playing back a sample. Now the sample has a natural decay and everything else. So the signal that was coming into there is going to go into our mixer here. Now I got two white cables, so we'll never know which is which again. But there it is. Nice. All right, so there's our clean. There's our digital version, and we're not using this VCA, this envelope generator VCA to do anything. So we can now use it as one of our controls, or one of our control sources for the pitch. So I'll now see if I have a yellow cable long enough. Hopefully I do. To patch from the envelope minus out, and I'll explain why in just a moment, into here. There, you can hear it. Let me bring it up. So we're going, when I hit a key, it's going to drop the pitch of this and then take it back up again. So it's going to drop it quick. Now, the other thing I like about these ADSRs is they have two modes. They have kind of a slow mode and a fast mode. So let's go ahead and so what I want to do is the chimey sound. I want the chimey sound to kind of fade out instead of being there all the time. So I'm going to mess with this. We're going to bring up the sustain a little bit here. So now the times, which is kind of what you're hearing there, they're only on as long as I hold down the note. Now if I could draw in this envelope, what I'd really want is something that kind of looks like a trapezoid, but it would go immediately on attack. It would open up and go along pretty straight, and then it would drop off naturally after a period of time, whether I'm holding the note or not. Right? So this envelope generator, this particular one, won't necessarily get me to where I want to go. But it will get us fairly close. And I also want the pitch of the times to track the pitch of the keyboard. And let's bring that frequency down just a tad. Let's back this off just a little bit. And I don't think that the pitch changes here for whatever reason, aren't tracking as fast as I would like for it to jump back up. So it's dropping, and then I want it to jump back up faster. I can, oh, okay, we can do that kind of with, there we go, let's bring it down. So there we go. That's pretty good. We'll call that good for this video. So that's our tiny sound, meaning it has tines in it. This one kind of has a little bit of tine, but this really has got a lot of it. So now we can mix them, of course. So we can bring in the regular one, and then kind of mix them to taste to vary how much of that tine, the chiming of the tines, I guess you could say, we want to have going on in the sound. Now the reason why I like analog for this kind of thing is because it's really easy to control, right? I can control the pitch very easily of my chimey sound. I can control my sample rate with the key I'm playing for the whole system by because the basic tone goes through this track and hold module. So for those of you who have PD, and there are a couple of you who I'm thinking of specifically, Jennifer, it would be interesting to try this in the digital realm and to see kind of how much control you can get through Max, MSP, PD, those kinds of things. Software that allows you to really kind of mess with the internals more than some most purpose-built soft synths. Because I'm curious to know how well they do this kind of thing. I love all kinds of audio. I love the analog stuff. I love digital synthesizers. I love playing instruments, all of that stuff. It's all useful. Okay, a lot of these things that we talk about, like aliasing, the only reasons why they are quote unquote bad is because they happen when we don't want them to. But when we learn about them, how to control them, how to use them, then they can be useful for musical results. So the next time you're designing a sound and you're trying to figure out how to do something, or you need, you know, the things that you would get out of ring mod or FM, but you don't have ring mod or FM. Maybe you just have a sample and hold module like this. Consider using aliasing. It can be really useful for things like this, and it can also be useful for other things. I'm not demonstrating them here, but cymbal sounds, metallic percussion, things like that. A lot of things that you use FM for, you can also create with this method and by using it creatively. All right, thank you so much for watching. It's been really fun for me to share this with you. I want to point out something. I don't know if you watched this, but this battery, this thing will run for quite a long time. Now remember, I'm running my camera, I'm running the keyboard, and I'm running all the modules in here off of this thing. I think we started at 85%, 84%. I'll have to go back and look at playback. Maybe it's 86. But we've only dropped a couple of percent the whole time that I've been doing this video. So these things really are cool because they can power a lot of stuff like this for a long time. iPads suck the life out of them, but if you're not running an iPad, and I don't know why, I mean, I would think this uses more electricity or more juice than an iPad, but apparently it doesn't. If you're not using an iPad, you can use this thing to power, you know, a row or so of modular stuff, and you're fully portable. And it plugs right into, you know, with the it's a 2.1 millimeter jack here and 2.1 millimeter jack here. So it's a really easy cable to find. That's a very common size for DC cables. You can distribute from here to more modules. You could get a row power 40, for instance, and do more stuff if you got to run more things. And there are other modules too that run off of DC like that. But it's really a great way to go in terms of power and keeping your stuff portable, which I think makes it more fun and better to use. Okay, thanks again for watching, and I will see you in some other video, probably about some other subject, who knows what, at another time. Thanks.